Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Classics with Courtney. And today I am excited to talk about a film I had seen recently, Phantom Lady. Released in 1944, the story is about a devoted secretary, Carol Richmond, played by Ella Raines, as she risks her safety to prove that her boss, Scott Henderson, played by Alan Curtis, is innocent of murdering his wife by tracking down a mysterious alibi witness. So, this review was inspired by old movie Rob because he had recently tackled this movie, which I highly recommend you guys check out. And it sounded interesting, and I wanted to watch more of Ella Raines' films. This one looked interesting, so I gave it a shot. To my pleasant surprise, this is one of the best film noirs I had ever watched. Not since This Gun for Hire did I actually have a great time sitting down in front of a film noir, excited to see what was going to happen. What I love most about this film is not just the cast, but the story. It's just a really good movie. But I want to talk about the cast real quick. This was Ella Raines' third movie, and she doesn't act like it. She acts like she's been in movies for years. She doesn't have anything bland about her. She is smart. She is kind. She's witty. She kind of has different personas in the movie. She gets to play the femme fatale, but she's also the sweet girl next door. She's a Nancy Drew character. She's all of this wrapped up into one, and she does an amazing job. We also have Alan Curtis as Scott Henderson, and he's okay. He's not what I would call the leading man because he is in jail most of the movie, so you don't really see much of his character. But what you do see of him, he's really nice. It's sad when he ends up biting off the head of Carol when he's in prison, but she understands and he quickly apologizes, and their chemistry is really cute. We also have Fran Chalton as Jack Marlowe, who is Scott Henderson's friend. He ends up accompanying Carol on some of her quests, but he's fine. We also have Elisha Cook Jr. as the drummer, and he is quite a dog in this movie. We see this guy drumming, and he always looks out to the audience. And when Carol decides to go undercover and she's dressed very vampy, he is looking very doggish towards her, if you will. He then takes her to an underground kind of band, and there's a very arousing scene that just consists of Ella Raines dancing a little bit and Elisha Cook drumming. But you cannot watch the scene and not get something else is being conveyed. I mean, you're not blatantly saying anything, but I know what you're saying. One of the things why I love this movie so much is it's the heroine's story. In the beginning, we see it from the guy's perspective. He is lonely, he goes to a bar, he takes this lonely woman out for a concert, goes home to find his wife has been axed off. Of course, he's blamed for the crime, and this is where we get the whole story of him going to jail, and then the story shifts to Carol's perspective. She becomes the detective. I love this so much because you're putting the woman in the forefront. You're showing us that she is very smart and that she does care for Scott. Pretty sure she puts herself into danger a couple of times, but it's nothing where we yell at her and say, oh my gosh, you're an idiot. She is very smart. I also love the atmosphere of the film. It's got a very Hitchcockian kind of feel to the film. For example, there's this really great moment where Carol is sitting at the bar and she's looking at the bartender. She knows that he knows something, and she follows him that night. It's a very atmospheric scene and it's done well. Speaking of Alfred Hitchcock, there is one issue I do have with the film, and we're going to do a little comparison with Vertigo. And this is going to be spoiler heavy for this portion. So if you have not watched this movie, skip to the timestamp below. Until then, let's go ahead and delve into this issue I have. If you guys know the film Vertigo, then you know where I'm going to go with this. But in Vertigo, Scotty is with Madeline. He's trying to help her because she's quote unquote possessed by a dead relative. And then she ends up bumping herself off. Like she acts as herself. And then he goes through this depression. And then when he gets out, he meets Judy, a very similar looking woman to Madeline, except she's dressed differently and she's got brunette hair, but she's got that same face. Now, on one hand, you might think, oh, this can't be her, it's just a coincidence. But then Hitchcock throws us a curve and tells us that this is Madeline. This was all fake. Judy was Madeline. We, as the audience, know. Scotty doesn't know until the third act or around the end of the third act. But Hitchcock did this to give us more of her perspective rather than his. I do get that point. But I also think it's a slight mistake because I think it would have been better if we never knew that Judy was Madeline until the end because it would have given us more time to figure things out. Phantom Lady does something very similar really early on. You don't know who the killer is in the film, not at first. But it's not until around the middle part of the film, like the end of the first act to the beginning of the second act, that we find out who the killer is. And it's French Charlton, who we find out is Scott's best friend. To me, this was a very big mistake because I would have preferred that we did not think it was him. In fact, I think it would have been better if we would have just never knew who the killer was until around the third act. Give us that surprise, like, oh my gosh, this is him. This is crazy. Instead, you're given the surprise early. So therefore, when you're watching the film, you're already telling the TV or whatever when you're watching the film, he's the guy. Don't go near him. Whereas if you didn't know it was him, you could have just been like, okay, well, maybe he's just trying to help her. Once he enters into the picture, he ends up going with Carol everywhere she goes. And you think, is he going to try and hijack her? Is he going to hurt her? Is he going to maybe try and hurt somebody else? Which luckily she still gets what she needs from certain people. And when she does find the witness, he's actually barred from speaking to her. So the nice thing is he is prevented, but it still doesn't help that we already know that he's the villain. It just would have been a lot better if they kept that secret up until the third act, or at least the middle to the end of the third act. It would have been a bit surprising. You also could have thrown in a bit of a red herring in there so that we don't naturally assume it's French Charlton because there isn't a big cast in the film. So, yeah, I think a red herring here and there would have been nice. And again, the surprise would have been better. Another thing I wanted to briefly talk about is the cop. Inspector Burgess, played by Thomas Gomez, ends up helping Carol on her quest, but he didn't start out that way. He was part of the bunch that would end up convicting Scott and handing him over to the DA. But he later goes to Carol and tells her that he was wrong and then unofficially helps her with the case. He ultimately becomes the good guy when we started off hating him at first. I especially love how Carol is with him. Like at first, she is mad at him.
If you're looking for Mr. Henderson, you'll find him just where you put him.
Oh, come on now. That's nonsense, and you know it. My job was done when I turned him over to the DA. You could have come to me.
You forget, Inspector. I know Scott's innocent.
So do I. I won't say I did my job poorly. The evidence shoved him right into the chair. But since the trial, I've been doing a lot of thinking. The only defense Scott offered was to continually talk about a woman with a funny hat. Only a fool or an innocent man would have stuck to that alibi. A guilty man would have been smarter. Scott wasn't being smart. He was telling the truth.
He's remorseful and he feels bad, and therefore he helps Carol to discover the truth. So by the end of the film, we do root for this guy and we're rooting for Carol to find out what's going on. Despite this being her third movie, Ella Raines is the one that carries this movie, not French Chanton, not the other actors, Ella. And she is magnificent in this movie. This is honestly my second favorite film noir right after This Gun for Hire. She's amazing in this movie. Definitely one of the best female heroines in film noir and classic Hollywood. I love her and I am excited to dig into more of her movies. So, yes, I highly recommend this movie. I had a lot of fun with this one. And thank you, Old Movie Rob, for watching and reviewing it because now I'm glad I have watched it. In fact, I recently bought the DVD. Can't wait for that to arrive. And that ends my review of Phantom Lady. So let me know in the comments below if you have seen this movie and what did you think of it? If you haven't seen it, did I pique your interest? Or is this a phantom you're not going to be chasing? Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Speaking of next video, next month we are kicking off Alan Ladd month. I told you he was going to get 2 months this year, and we are dedicating September for him too. Stay tuned for more Alan Ladd content. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye! Have a great and wonderful day.